All right, good morning and welcome to the Viking House, aka the crown jewel of the South End. My name is Annie Patu, proud principal of Rainier Beach High School. I want to thank Mayor Bruce Harrell and Superintendent Brent Jones and all of you for being here today to talk about our highest priority of safety in our schools. First, I want to take a moment of silence for Ebenezer Hiley, Amara Murphy Payne, Xavier Landry, Jay Shauna Hollingsworth, Connor Dassa Holling, Elijah Lewis, and all our students we have lost to gun violence. Thank you. In the beginning of this summer, I made the difficult decision to close our campus during lunches to keep my students safe because I love my students and I love my community. I made this decision with lots of feedback from my students, our families, our community partners, and data for incidents that occurred over the last few years during our lunch period. In addition, we have taken the necessary steps to ensure our kids receive tasty meal options on campus and provide spaces and activities for our students where our students can enjoy during their lunchtime. Our juniors and seniors will have the opportunity to go off campus, but only with parent consent. The epidemic of gun violence has done a number on our communities and especially our young people. Rainier Beach has benefited from the investments from the city that has been made through the education levy and the Seattle Community Safety Initiative. But we know it's not enough. So I want to publicly thank Mayor Harrell and Superintendent Jones for locking arms to make an even deeper investment to keep all of our kids and our campuses safe. And I want to shout out to my principal colleagues who are holding it down on the front lines to keep their school community safe.
Thank you for being here, who chairs the Education Committee, among other things. I want to level set by starting with a Maasai saying, a tradition. Many of you know Maasai is located primarily in Kenya and Tanzania, that when a community member greets each other, they ask, and how are the children? It's a powerful reminder that the well-being of our young people. That's my director, Dwayne Chappelle, distracting me. in the middle of a Maasai tradition. How are the young people? And I'm glad we could laugh a little bit. We're going to get through this together. We're going to protect our community. How are the young people? A powerful reminder that the young people are the true measure of a community's health. And at the end of the day, that's what we are fighting for, the health and safety of our youth and our teachers and our administrators and our parents. Let me make that clear. So I am joined by Superintendent Jones to announce a $14.55 million investment, $12.25 from the City of Seattle, $2.3 million from the Seattle Public Schools that align, strengthen, and expand student safety and mental health support for the upcoming year. And let me break down what that means. Now, this is in addition, and I need to make this clear. This is in addition to the nearly $37 million investment that we are currently making in violence interruption and community-based organizations designing to address the root causes of violence. So this is not just window dressing for one day or 1 week or 1 year. This is a part of a sustainable investment strategy to protect our communities. Now, like all cities right now, violence, including gun violence on school campuses, it's been out of control and it is a complex issue. Let me make that very clear. If it were simple to solve, it would be solved by now. If you look at what's happening in Seattle, Seattle has historically had lower rates of homicide and juvenile crime. We follow data. That's how we make our decisions. About 14% of all reported crimes in 2023 and 2024 involved juveniles as either suspects or victims. Within this year alone, we've collected, when I say we've, I'm talking about the Seattle Police Department, close to 960 guns. Now that's building on 1,533 guns we collected last year. That is not a statistic I'm proud of because, as I've said repeatedly, there are too many guns out on the streets and they are in the wrong hands. We've also seen, quite candidly, within the last month, a 20% increase in arrests citywide. Once again, as when I became mayor several years ago, I said, we will lead with compassion. We will lead with empathy. We will look at root causes. I'm from this community, born and raised, TT Minor, Meany, and Garfield. Make no mistake about it. But I will arrest. I will arrest when we need to make arrests. It's as simple as that. My job is to love, but my job is to protect. So our strategy, our threefold strategy that I'm going to talk about right now sort of breaks down how we're going to go about this. I'll call it a three-prong approach. The first part are school-based measures, and I'll talk in depth about that. That's roughly about $8 million that I'll talk about of what we're doing within the schools. The third piece are violence interruption and community partnerships, and I see a lot of the warriors, the protectors of our community here today. I'll talk about that as a third prong. And then the second prong, and as a third prong, Chief Aurora, interim police chief, will talk about our SPD strategy that will deploy on the first day of school and having it in somewhat of a sustainable manner. So we're going to target interventions in 11 particular schools as our initial rollout. Now we're currently seeing in these particular schools the highest rate of violence in and around the campuses. So the high schools are here, Rainier Beach, Garfield, Chief Sealth International, Franklin, and Ingram. That's where the data leads us. The middle schools, or the feeder schools, if you will, are Aki, Kurosi, Washington, Denny, Mercer, Robert, Eaglestaff, and Meany. Let me talk about the first pillar, if I may. We are going to invest $5.6 million towards hiring additional mental health counselors and care coordinator positions in 21 school-based health centers to provide personal clinical interventions and referrals. So this is managed by Public Health, Seattle and King County. This funds 42 positions. This is real work, real investment. Hopefully we'll treat real people in a real-time basis to make sure that they feel protected and they have the tools to optimize their growth. We will invest $2.4 million to expand access to telehealth therapy services to over 2,000 students. I guarantee you if I ask who has a phone right now, darn near every hand would go up. If I ask who doesn't have a phone, I'd venture to say if one person raised a hand, we say, what's wrong with that person? Telehealth is a means to reach a lot of people these days, and we do it in a confidential and a safe manner. So we think that this is a good $2.4 million investment as well. The second piece, the second tier, the second prong, if you will, we'll invest $4.25 million to arrange a range of gun violence prevention, intervention, and interruption resources. Now, what does this look like? This looks like funding violence intervention staff. You know, when I use terms like that, violence intervention staff to work inside schools, they're going to be inside the schools. We want them to be here. We want them housed here. We're trying to intervene and stop the violence. I also say in the same sentence, we're trying to create love, okay? We're trying to create relationships, mentorships. We're trying to protect, but we're definitely trying to intervene and stop the violence. So thank you, David, thank you. So we will build relationships with current school personnel and students who are at the highest risk of the impacts of gun violence. We're going to expand safe passage programs to all 11 focus schools in partnership with community-based organizations, and I think all of you know the importance of safe passage. We're going to expand case management for students directly impacted by gun violence and their families. You heard Principal Patu when she mentioned some names. She couldn't help but get emotional, as many of you are, because these are not names on lists. These are real human beings, many of whom we've lost. We must understand the pain of a mother or father or brother or sister, and we have to think about, again, how do we make sure that safe passages are occurring, case management are occurring, students directly impacted, the whole ecosystem of those impacted. We're going to establish a new family resource fund. Quite frankly, those are just dollars. This is a flexible pool of funds designed to support students and their families most at risk of gun violence participating in case management at focus schools. So this is a tool to provide to mitigate risk factors for students. It could help with clothing, food, utilities, and transportation. We realize when gun violence impacts a family, it disrupts everything in their life. And so we want to make sure that we have some resources available to that. The third prong, the third approach will be is law enforcement. Now, as we're getting ready for the new school year and figuring out new routines, here's what you can expect from the city and from the district and from our partners for our children. Over the course of the school year, we'll be deploying the services and interventions I've outlined above and expanding support to the middle schools. But on the first day of school, you'll also see a police, I'll say a police presence, an emphasis around the schools to make sure that we are there for you, protecting our community. Now the question becomes, how do we develop this three-prong approach, looking at law enforcement, community-based organizations, telehealth, and these different tools? From you, with partnerships with the students, listening to the parents, grieving with the parents, talking to community-based organizations, letting students and administrators and partnerships rule the way. And I have to tell you that we do not have all of the answers. I asked my team, I have a deputy mayor here out in Emory. We ask her team, she leads part of this portfolio, this particular portfolio, and we say, study the country, study the world. How are they protecting their children? So we will evolve, we will grow, we will learn, and we will listen to you. We understand, and I'll close and introduce the superintendent in my closing statement. Excuse me. When we lose a child, I feel like I lost a child. We have to be smarter and more collaborative than the bad people. Amen. I make no mistake about that. It's very easy to blame people all around. You're not doing this, you're not doing this. You don't see me blaming people. What you see me doing is I'm a strong person. You see me collaborating. Under this superintendent, you don't know the hours we've worked together trying to figure out a strategy that works. We'll do this together. We'll do this strongly. We will learn. We will evaluate. We will measure. And we'll do it again. This is a journey together, community. and I'll have this discussion with students throughout this whole year. When we lose these kids, as I've said publicly and privately, I feel like I'm losing one of my own. And you have to know you have a mayor that believes that and will do everything possible to protect this community. I introduce now the superintendent, Dr. Brent Jones. And the only bad thing I'm going to say about Brent Jones is he did go to Franklin. I went to Garfield, but I still love him anyway. But I do love Quakers. I know there's some few Quakers here, and I want them to know, go Quakers. I said it once, I'm not going to say it anymore. I know I'm.
I want to begin by thanking Mayor Harrell, Chief Rahr, and community for being here today. The partnership that we have is enduring, and it's invaluable as we tackle some of these really tough issues. I also want to recognize school board members that are here today. They've given me clear, unambiguous charge to do what we need to do to mitigate what's been happening. We've started with listening. We began planning by listening to our students. Following the tragedy at Garfield High School, the mayor and I met with our young people to hear their hopes, needs, fears, and concerns. And it's critical.
Did you plan that, right?
I did.
It was a Quaker joke.
Quaker joke, yes. It's critical that our students and staff feel safe and are safe so that we can do what we do best at Seattle Public Schools, and that's teaching and learning. We know if students don't feel safe, they cannot learn. That's facts. So our commitment is to continue to listen so we can understand what the needs are. We can be relevant, we can be strategic, we can be, things that we can do can be attainable. And if we want to make sure that our students understand, that we understand what their needs are. So this listening leads to action. And we're here today because we are navigating a new landscape filled with both opportunities and challenges. This new environment requires us to develop a new playbook, and we're developing that together. The mayor, the police chief, and I are mobilizing resources, as you heard the mayor speak to create an ecosystem of support. We are working together because we collectively believe that opportunity begins at school, and we don't want to disrupt that. It's made the difference for the mayor and me at Seattle Public Schools. We are products of Seattle Public Schools, so this is real and heartfelt for us. We have the power to protect and transform the lives of our students. So what are we doing for our students? What will be different? So our district safety plans are designed to align resources with the specific needs of our schools. And here's what it will look like for our students beginning on September 4th. Because relationships matter, throughout the school day, students will interact more with adults focused explicitly on their safety. Because of this strengthened collaboration we have with the police, students may see a police presence around school perimeters, and this is part of strengthening our collaboration between our schools and the police. There'll be regular communication between police and our school leaders. There'll be protection against violence around our schools, and there will be walkthroughs to our schools to ensure emergency preparedness. Some of the physical changes that you'll see, students might notice new cameras, additional signage, fencing, access control measures. We'll also see building trusting relationships. As students enter into schools, they will build relationships with new adults. Some of those folks are here today. We're adding staff to make sure that there's no chance that we won't make this happen. We are doubling security specialist staff at key schools. These specialists will foster positive relationships, monitor the school environment, and address incidents as they arise. Social work support. Students may also meet social workers. And we've had an increase in social workers by 66% over the last 3 years, in spite of our budget constraints. You'll see a strengthened oversight. We'll be hiring an executive director of school and community safety to lead these efforts, which is an expert in this field. We'll have community integration, such as you folks here today. Throughout the year, additional trusted adults from the community will join our schools. As the mayor mentioned, this will include more counselors, violence interruption specialists, and telehealth providers. We are developing an ecosystem of support. These adults will come from SPS, the city, contractors, the police department. They are all here to support our students and community, forming an integrated system of support. So at Seattle Public Schools, we believe opportunity begins here, and that opportunity is rooted in everything we've discussed today. Strong relationships, a clear understanding of our new reality, partnership, planning, and support. On a personal note, like I mentioned, this is deeply personal to me. As a son of this city, as a graduate of our school system, as a parent of an SPS graduate, it's meaningful. And when the mayor got choked up a few minutes ago, I felt that. And when we lose students, I feel the same way as his direct sentiment. So we are here representing that we are ready to do what it takes to disrupt what's happening and replace it with something better. We want our students not just to survive, we want our students to thrive. And with that, I want to extend my gratitude to everyone here today. I'm enrolling you in this mighty mission to create safety for our communities. And I'm appreciative of Chief Rahr, Mayor Harrell, and everybody here behind me, because this is the team that you're looking at that's going to make a transformation. So thank you very much, and back to you, Mayor Harrell.
I don't think I was choked up. For the record, I just get a little emotional. Those that work with me know I get emotional. I want to recognize a few folks before I introduce our interim chief of police. Deputy Mayor Tiffany Washington is here as well. I introduced Deputy Mayor Adam Emery. I have two directors of education, Dave Chappelle. Dwayne Chappelle, Dr. Dwayne Chappelle. Stand up, D. No stranger to here. and Tanya Kim, our Director of Human Services. Thank you for being here as well. There's another person I just asked him to come here. He's staying way in the back, and I want you to raise your hand. That's Brian Stewart. Raise your hand back there, Brian Stewart. And I'm going to tell you why Brian Stewart. So you guys are clapping, you don't even know Brian Stewart, but many of you do. He holds a master's in social work. He's a Garfield coach, but he's doing the work with the school district and helping kids. And he was one of the first people when we unfortunately had the death of Amar Payne Murphy, Garfield. He's one of the first people to contact him because he was his coach. It's this kind of, and just so you know, I love everyone. He's a Washington State Cougar as well. But this is how we're going to get it done, that someone knows our community, that can go upstream and help us navigate through the waters we have to navigate through. And as I introduce Police Chief Rahr, this is part of the police strategy. She's a nationally respected leader in law enforcement, and she teaches people how not just to make arrests, but to understand really the ecosystem by which you're making arrests in. And so I introduce you to, and I hate saying interim police chief because it always makes me sad that someday she may not be my police chief, but I'll say it, interim police chief Sue Rahr. Please come forward.
Good morning, everyone. This is absolutely overwhelming to see the giant network of support we have for our kids. And I am so hopeful. I know that we are starting out the school year from a place of fear after what happened last year. But what I see here is all of these people who are joined together to make our kids safe. I want to bring a slightly different flavor of policing to the ecosystem we have here. I started my relationship with Superintendent Dr. Brent Jones a couple months ago. I had not met him before, heard good things about him, but I thought, you know what? We need to know one another as humans before we can start talking about how we're going to work together. And it didn't take more than about 10 minutes for us to just click, because we both have the same goal, and that is to keep the kids safe. We also both agree that the school is a sacred place. The school should be the place where kids and parents just take a sigh of relief and say, okay, I know my kids are safe now. They're surrounded by adults, by professionals, by community volunteers who have dedicated their lives to these children. And I told Dr. Jones right off the get-go, I am here to ask you what you need. We are not here as a police department to say we're coming in with guns blazing, That is the worst possible way to make the school environment safe. We don't do that. We also agreed that the most important thing we can do is create trusting relationships. I know that the police have work to do in building those trusting relationships, and this makes me hopeful that we can accomplish that. And so that's what we're starting with. The police will be around the school. We will be as visible as we possibly can for the purposes of just letting people know we are here to keep you safe. As the school year goes on and we all get to know one another, I hope that we can continue to build on that trust and build communication, because that's how we keep our students safe. So thank you all for what you have dedicated your lives to. It's just really an honor to work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before I introduce our next speaker, I want to recognize the Southeast Safety Network. I want to recognize the Boys and Girls Club. I see you, and you look good, and you're doing good work. Thank you. And I know many of you, let me say this in the right way so I don't offend anyone. I usually offend someone 2 or 3 times a day. I know many of you can relate to the people that you are trying to protect. That is in my vernacular, that's God's work. Thank you for realizing that you can make a difference. Having said that, this next speaker, Chelsea Gallegos, is a mental health counselor working in the Teen Health Center at Franklin now. We love Franklin. I'm trying to clean up my Franklin joke. But many of you know she actually worked here for 8 years as well, and she is passionate about this work. Chelsea Gallegos.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Chelsea Gallegos. I'm a licensed social worker and mental health counselor at Franklin now for the last 3 years. But I was the very proud social worker here at Rainier Beach for 8 years. And it was really cool to hear that statistic. I'm looking at you, Dr. Chappelle, about the 66% increase in social work, because the first couple years I worked here, there wasn't a social work position. Dr. Chappelle and I got creative about how to bring that position into the building, and now it feels like it's a permanent position. So I am really happy to see that we are moving forward in terms of giving students what they deserve, but we're not there yet. And so I'm here to talk about the first prong around expanding mental health access for young folks. So comprehensive school-based health centers have existed in Seattle since 1989. I believe the first one was here at Beach. And now there are more than 70 of them throughout the state. Kaiser Permanente operates and staffs 9 school-based health centers in Seattle Public Schools, including the one I work at Franklin. At the health centers, they're overseen by Public Health, Seattle and King County. Students can get immunizations, annual checkups, asthma care, contraception, mental health care, and other care within their school building. It is a real clinic. It could be down the street, but it's inside of the school, which really increases access for young people. And having those inside of the school really prioritizes and shows the students that, like, this is as important to us as your academics are. And we're going to make this as easy as possible for you to be empowered around your own mental health. And we know that school-based health centers have been associated with improved educational outcomes, better attendance, higher grades, decreased emergency department visits and hospitalizations. And I personally have seen how important having these school-based health centers have been to young people, and how transformative it has been for a lot of young people. There's so many barriers for our young people right now. They're dealing with more stress and violence and mental health issues than kids maybe have ever had to deal with before. We see a lot of students in the school-based health centers who are going through some sort of crisis or are just looking for support to try and heal themselves, heal their family, sort of turn the tides within their family around generational trauma, which is so inspiring that the young people are wanting to do this work and are asking for this money to be allocated. The care coordinator role that was mentioned earlier, We'll support the initial screening and triage for young people and help get them connected to available mental health resources because, to be honest, which is great, the demand is very high. We have a lot of referrals, and so sometimes the therapists spend a lot of time trying to make referrals outside to other agencies, and that time could be spent in session with students if there was a care coordinator who was doing the referring out and such. So we are really happy to see that there's going to be additional staffing, and that's going to increase our ability to support students with access to high quality, equitable, culturally responsive healthcare services that are free. So we are really happy to see that, and I really want to thank Mayor Harrell and Dr. Brent Jones for their leadership on this issue, along with the many community leaders here today who are doing the work. Your support in our school-based health centers ensure not only positive health outcomes, but positive mental health and necessary crisis supports for so many students in our schools. And I personally would really like to thank who I consider the true leaders of this movement, which are the young people who have used their voices. They've engaged in a lot of activism around demanding more funding for this. And that is a gift, and you're actually modeling for us adults how important mental health care is and self-care is. So keep fighting, keep putting that pressure on, and appreciation to the adults who are taking action in response to what our students say they need to thrive, which they deserve to do.
Thank you, Chelsea. Before I introduce our next speaker, I want to recognize the school board president, Liza Rankin. Please raise your hand. Liza, thank you for being here. I get this all the time, but you have a tough job too, and thank you for your service. Our next speaker, if you don't know Ricole Jones, you better ask somebody, as they say. She's been doing this work for 22 years. She's a program director for the Southeast Network Safety Net program at the Boys and Girls Club, which is, of course, one of our partner organizations throughout our Seattle Community Safety Initiative. And again, she does this work with intelligence, integrity, and passion, and I'm very proud to call her a partner in this work. Ricole Jones, everybody.
I mean, I'm done now, right? He gave me my shout out and I can go home. Just give me a moment while I collect myself. It is hot up here. Who set this light up? Take it down. No, I am truly, yeah, that's true. My name is Ricole Jones, and I am Southeast Network's program program director. I have been with Southeast Network for 12 years, and we have been proud partners in leading this work with Seattle, thank you. So let me collect myself. So we actually are a part of Seattle Community Safety Initiative, and we have provided site-based violence interruption for the Rainier Beach Complex since 2015. I am very fortunate to be a part of the blue coats that you see that are sitting in the back of the room, who are working tirelessly day in and day out to make sure our young people are provided the support that they need in community. We have been really fortunate to be able to have a safety team based out of Rainier Beach. We are continuing this work in terms of our case management support and support for the mental health work that's happening here. Our strategy today is to be able to expand upon that work and to be able to increase capacity. I would be remiss if I did not mention my executive director, our fearless leader, Marty Jackson. Marty has, thank you, truly. All of the intelligence and greatness that you speak about has come from her leadership and her tutelage for me. And so I appreciate her, and I stand on the shoulders of both her, Paul Patu, I stand on the shoulders of Dominique Davis. The amazing work that they are leading in this community has been, I am so proud to be able to say that I'm part of that. But I will talk about the things that are uncomfortable. That is the person that I am. And so let's for a moment talk about our kids. For me, it is different than, like Mayor Harrell references, mentioning a name that just kind of goes in your ear and out the other. Our kids come through the door every day, needing help, expecting support, having to navigate emotionally, losing friends in high school. Losing their friends in high school. I like to consider myself to be a pretty witted person, and I have a very jaded past that we don't have to talk about today necessarily, but I can't say that I ever buried any of my friends.
Right.
I can't say that. In my tenure, I've buried 38 young people who looked me in my face and had faith that I was going to be able to spare them from the casket. I am both emotionally moved, appreciative, but then also motivated every time that I see one of our young people's lives cut short. Thank you, Dwayne Chappelle, for your leadership of this school, sir. Thank you, absolutely. Dwayne left here and went to the city to be a superhero and tell people the truth about what schools need. Thank you, Annie Patu, who has worked tirelessly as the assistant principal, and I'm excited to see your leadership here today. I have so much faith in the work that's happening at Rainier Beach. My own child, my youngest baby, goes here every day.
Yes.
And I will be honest in saying that she's not always necessarily feeling safe, not always necessarily feeling comfortable. Even, you know, girl drama shows up and your kid's at risk of being jumped, and somehow Safe Passage, we work in the same building, knows more than I do, and they call me and tell me, hey, we got her, she's standing right here, and we're gonna do this, that, and the other to make sure she stays safe. For myself, I come because I have faith not in the kids that I've buried, but the kids that are still sitting here today. And my job is to make sure that you receive the services and supports that you need, and rather whatever advocacy has to happen. And sometimes I am the bad guy, and I love you, Bruce. Please know that, right? But at the end of the day, oh, is it Mayor Harrell? Is it? But when we're at the Esquire, I get to call him. Right? Isn't that not today? We're not. Okay, sorry, Bruce. You're right. Mayor Harrell. I appreciate the city's investment. I appreciate the city's understanding that this investment needs to be expounded upon. I appreciate having continued conversation and them coming back to the table every time that we say, hey, this is not going to be enough. We will continue to do what we need to do, working in partnership with each other to make sure that it is enough for you. That is my commitment to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Our last speaker is Ray Proctor, Jr. I know his family. Now I'm getting ready to know him. I asked him before this conference, well, what do you want to do after you finish here at the beach? And he said he wanted to go into sports medicine. What I thought was, yes, let's give that a hand. What I thought was marvelous about that story is usually I want to be an NBA player. I want to be like LeBron James. We're all not 6'8". Was it that old song, I wish I was taller, we're not going to be LeBron James, but to do something ancillary to the sports industry, and there's great opportunities out there in many avenues, and I love it when I hear young people say they're going to do something different and seize the opportunity, and I will venture to say he's going to be very successful because I know his family. Roy Proctor Jr., senior here at Rainier Beach.
Like you said, I'm Ray Proctor. I go here to Rainier Beach High School. I'm a senior. I'm here to talk about Safe Passage and what they've done for me and my community throughout the years I've been in high school. What they've done for me while I've been in high school. They've been a strong person in my community. They've helped me. They've been here through the gun violence. They protected me. They protected my brothers. Even though I've lost them, Amar Murphy Payne, that was my cousin. But they helped me through it. They talked to me. They've been there with me throughout the whole way, even through everything that happened, you know. I've been with them since I was a young kid. They helped me a lot. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Ray. That's going to conclude our remarks. We have information available I think we've given to members of the press. I will entertain a couple of questions if there are from the press. Yes, sir. Please proceed.
This is a question from Dr. Jones. You talk about data, and we've shared this with your staff, Mayor, and with Dr. Jones. But CBS News analyzed every shooting of a school since 1966. And since Parkland in Florida, 80%, 84 actually, have happened outside school walls, including all but one here in Seattle, the Nun. What does this plan do to address that reality, Dr. Jones?
So let me be clear, it's not a singular plan, it's evolving. And since that other tragedy at Ingram High School, we've gotten together with the mayor's office, with SPD. We've looked at our internal systems. We've done training. I believe that our schools are safer now internally than they are externally, obviously. And so I believe all the interventions that we've done, from changing locks to signage to training, have made our schools much safer. And so the fact that it happened in one of our schools was not taken lightly, but I believe we have a lot of mitigation now in place to be able to, not ensure, but to have a 99% assurance that it's not going to happen again.
But the fact it's happening outside school walls, is that revelatory to you? I mean, does that
Well,
and not just here, but across the country?
Yeah, it's not revelatory, it's the reality. I was at a conference with a bunch of superintendents. 5 of them had to leave the conference in real time because they were having gun violence incidents back at their school districts. So this is a national phenomenon. We have too many guns. But the power of what we're doing here, we're doing here is unprecedented in terms of the partnership. We can't do this alone. Seattle Public Schools is made up of a bunch of teachers. That's what we do. We don't have training in violence interruption. We have training in instruction. And so now that we have these partnerships, I believe that we can create this ecosystem of safety. And so that's the power of what you're seeing here today. And so I can't speak to why all these things are happening external to our school. I know it's politically, I don't like it. It's not aligned, it doesn't align with my values. However, I believe that this community has had enough, and we're going to do what we need to do to actually address it. So it's not an easy solution. There's not something magical that we have to do. We have to dig down deep, each one of us, and manage not only our own homes, but our neighborhoods, our greater communities in this city. And I think if we all lean into that with some evidence-based practices, we can change the conditions almost overnight. So thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to address it. A few things. I cited to many of you some statistics about the guns we recovered. We don't just take them and put them in an evidence room. We do a forensic analysis as how did this person get the gun? So whether the shooting occurred inside the school or outside the school, what we try to understand is how could we have interrupted that cycle of violence? This is where the community comes in. Right now, I will venture to say when school starts, there could be a child, a student, that just wants to get an education that is frightened or traumatized, and they may bring a gun to school. Who can he or she talk to? Who could he or she say, why are you walking around with this fear? Because something popped off in Renton or Kent, and they know who I am. Okay. That's the culture. And, you know, when I went to school back in the dinosaur ages, that's not how we got down. I'll just be candid with you. You get in a fight, and the next day you argue about who won the fight. No one can remember. The stakes have changed, and so our community-based interventions are designed to go upstream to develop those relationships, to show people there's another way outside of violence. And we're going to continue investing in this kind of intervention because, again, as Principal Patu said, we know who we lost. Sometimes it's a little difficult to measure those who we are saving, because I know you're saving. And that the beauty of Mr. Proctor's statements is he said this helped him become who he is in his own unique way of saying it. He was saying thank you. So great question. I appreciate it. Another question if there is. Yes, ma'am.
Talking about just what you just expect on day one, you talked about students would be able to see physical security. But for Garfield students who are going back first week, first month,
Yeah, I'll talk about a few things, and maybe my chief of police or one of my deputy mayors could be a little more specific to save me. Deputy Mayor Washington may say a few words. The first thing is, many of us are going to be there and around some of these schools. We targeted, of course, 11 schools initially in our investment strategy. We're going to be there welcoming with community, letting the students know we care. That's not just symbolic. That is a means by which they know that we are investing in you. We're letting you know. You're going to see, as the police talked about, certain police cars in certain areas at certain times of the day, and we're a little, we don't share all of our police strategies and tactics. That's an internal strategies that we develop on a whiteboard, so to speak, and so I'm just going to be a little coy on exactly how the police will maneuver at these different schools. We are now negotiating, if you will, with the district on how our violence interrupters, to use that term, will be actually in the school, such that the students know exactly who to go to, where to go to. They'll, through our telehealth efforts, they'll know who to call, and you'll see all that on the first day, and I'll ask Deputy Mayor to say a few more.
Good morning. So the answer to both of your questions, you're asking for a technical answer to an adaptive issue. And so what will be different is you'll see more of the community that you see around here surrounding the schools. It's not new, it's just been underfunded. So what you're going to see is all of these folks that are sitting in the back in blue shirts. I see, what is that? Neon? I'm colorblind. Neon shirts. You're gonna see more of them. This problem is addressed, and I don't know who up here, I think it was drama, intergenerational trauma. These are young people who have intergenerational trauma, and they don't trust everybody. But they trust the people that are in this room that look like them, walk like them, talk like them, and have experiences like them, but have come out on the other side. So what's gonna be different is more of them. You're gonna see more of them. They're gonna be resourced more. They're gonna have the Family Resource Fund to help young people and their parents to survive. And they're also going to have more of the programs to help the young people thrive. And so it's not new, it's just that they're going to be adequately funded thanks to the partnership that the mayor and the superintendent just talked about.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions? Yes.
Are those the security specialists that you're talking
No.
about, that you're bringing on? Or can you explain
No.
the difference?
Sure,
I've
sure,
talked
okay.
to Garfield parents,
So let me
and they
just-
really want to know what these security specialists are, what they do. Are they agents?
Yes, thank you. So we have some security specialists in here right now. If you're in here, raise your hand. We're going to increase that by 33%. We have a 33% increase. So you can see almost 15 new security personnel at our schools. So that is one thing that is tangible, I think, what you're looking for. And I mentioned before, in terms of signage, training, cameras, all those type of things, and Mayor Harrell alluded to it. We're not going to say exactly what the hardening factors are, but we're ready to, parents and families will see something different at Garfield on day one. So it'll be tangible.
When you're talking about doubling, for example, at these schools, that goes from 1 to 2 or 2 to 4?
Maybe 2 to 5 in some cases. Yeah.
Please.
Hey, you said intervention specialist. That was us. You called our name. Yes, violence interruption. Yes. So our violence interrupters or our safe passage teams will be deployed inside of area schools first day of school. They provide a level of guardianship in the community. They get young people connected to different services and continue a level of case management to ensure that our young people have the support that they need on day one. In addition, we also provide case management, and those are the folks that are in the back of the house. Now, they're in here, right? They're actually based out of our schools, but they're in the back of the house in the sense that there are issues that we do not see on our kids when they show up with their backpack on first day of school. They have the opportunity to kind of unpack those things with young people, get them connected to those services. So, yes, you can. Excuse me.
Yeah, in my own experience with violence interrupters, the Be Safe, the Blue Coats have been instrumental here at Beach in our, what we call the Rainier Beach corridor with South Shore, Dunlap, South Lake, if I'm missing a school, Emerson. So we all work together to ensure, because these are our kids. They are all related. We all know the same families, and it's the same for Garfield is community passageways. So I want to see community passageways. You raise your hand. These are the violence interrupters in the central area community, because we all have ties to each other. We all work together, and it's knowing our kids, knowing where they come from, being able to be folks that they can talk to. And when you talked about what's going to happen on day one, and Garfield can do the same, Rainier Beach has been invited all their alumni back on the first day of school to invite our kids into this building. So that's what we're doing to make sure our kids feel safe on day one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you a member of the press? I'm not. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I'd like to share some feedback from the students.
Please.
The day that our community came together on Tuesday, June 11th or whatever, after Mars' death, it felt really good as a community member, but I will say that a lot of feedback from the students was it didn't feel good. It felt performative and it felt reactionary. And a lot of kids asked, where have these people been before today? Before we had to lose one of our friends and students. So while I appreciate the sentiment, I would love for us to be sure that we are checking in with the kids to see does that feel good to them as they are welcome back into the school.
Appreciate the feedback. I want to validate that. My mother and father went to Garfield, as did and I get that. We did some follow-up work, but that's great feedback. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to close down, and I want to thank, I'm just not taking, I'll talk off. If you're not a member of the press, I'll just talk off camera for go ahead. You already had 2 questions, so. No, I'm just messing. Go ahead. I'm just going, I mess with you. Go ahead.
How, we talk about so many programs. We have Reach Out Now. Last year we
Yep.
talked about it's important to launch all these programs.
Yep.
And stand them up. How do you measure success? What metrics are you using? How are you going to report this so that the communities, families can track how this money is being spent, but most important, what the outcomes are?
Yeah. So if you didn't hear the question, it's a great question. How do we measure success in this program? Let me make something very clear. This kind of collaboration is unprecedented in what we're trying to do. We call you violence interrupters. I refer to them as peace builders. That what we're trying to do at this scale hasn't been done before. We will look at the metrics. Our team are very data oriented. We'll look at the number of, quite frankly, we even track graduation rates. We try to figure out who's dropping out of school. We try to figure out how many guns are fired, how many guns are retrieved. For me, at the end of the day, in addition to the data, in addition to lives lost or lives saved, which we will measure, as the parent from Garfield said, how do the kids feel? Do they feel? There's a statistic that I didn't talk about in my speech that I want to share with you. I actually had a speech, just didn't. I always deviate from them. This is an interesting stat. %50 of 8th graders in our Seattle Public School system, and 71% of people like Ray, 12th graders, report feeling anxious, fearful. 1 in 3 12th graders report feeling depressed. They're suffering from depression. So these are statistics that we will measure against. How do they feel in addition to how they're graduating?